You want to kill off a queer character. It happens. But, of course, we know, you and I, we know that there is this little trope that is well known in media and in queer circles. The infamous trope of burying your gays. In this video, I want us to go through the struggle that you are dealing with when it comes to wanting to kill off a queer character. And I want to emphasize right now, this is not inherently bad. And I want to emphasize that the overall idea of doing this is not inherently a bad thing. I think that it's only how it is handled in the story that makes it bad. And so in this video, we are going to talk about, one, the history of this certain trope. We're going to talk about fixing the common issues, and then I'm going to give you a few questions that you can work with in order to get past some of the blockage around wanting to kill off a queer character. So let's start with, actually, in case you're new here, in case you right there are new here, let me introduce myself for a moment. My name is Bridget. I am a queer Canadian writer and former filmmaker, and my mission here is to help you write more queer stories. Whether you're a queer person, whether you're an ally, this channel is all about helping you write queer stories that resonate and just feeling more confident in writing queer characters overall. So let's dive into the history and the root of the bury your gays trope. The bury your gays trope is not necessarily, I think, what it seems at first glance. The overall idea is that yes, a queer character is killed off. But when we look at it more closely, it is more so when a queer character is killed off with no reason, and it is usually caused, maybe directly or indirectly, by their identity. And this comes up a lot. It often also relates to, like, their death can basically be a catalyst for their cishet counterpart. And so that creates a kind of idea of inferiority. It's making a queer character seem less than their cishet counterpart. When it comes to queer characters in media and the bury your gays trope, which of course we're talking about right now, there is such a fear when we are writing these characters that we will cause harm. Maybe unintentionally, well, hopefully unintentionally. And the bury your gays trope does hurt queer people because it reinforces the idea that our stories are not as important as our cishet counterparts. It is taking away representation from a group that is still underrepresented. And so this leads us into part 2, which is fixing common issues. Now, there are several ways that we can remedy the kind of dilemma around killing off queer characters. And I know one of the things that you are probably struggling with is just having the idea in your head that this is where your character's story makes sense for it to go. And that's okay. That makes total sense. Often when characters take on their own life in our heads, like when we're writing and they like tell us what is going to happen, or the plot just, it makes sense for this character's journey to end this way, that it feels weird to fight against, which I understand. I'm going to give you like 2 key ways that you can remedy this, and there are more, but okay. One of them is one that I have used a lot, because my stories, which, to preface this, I have written 1 full manuscript, and then I'm working on my 2nd right now. Both of them have like so many queer characters in them, which is the main way that I like to remedy the barrier gaze trope, which is just by putting more queer characters in my story. Because the idea of the idea of barrier gaze is basically like taking away the one queer character in your story. That's the wound that really comes up, is because for so long there was like 1 queer character in your story. If they get killed off, that's it. You get no more. And that has gotten better in recent years, but it's still ingrained in us as creatives that it's like, oh, I can't kill them off, because then that's an issue. That's playing into the barrier gaze trope. And often I'm thinking of like, my mind goes back to Supernatural, where it's basically like, sometimes you'd have several queer characters in a story, but then one would die. And then it's like, okay, then we have 1, and then we have 2, and then 1 dies. And then it's just like, they're constantly playing this little game of like, no, I promise we have more than 1, and then they all just end up dying at the end. Spoilers. But yes, having at least more than 1 queer character in your story is a great way to like get past this block. I think that a key factor as well is not just having, like, if you have more than 1 queer character, it's not like the main queer character dies and then you have like a really small side character who's also queer. It's like they should be like major character, possibly another major character, or like major and minor. Like, it's they should have like similar levels of importance to your story, because the key message is that our stories are still as valuable as the cis-side counterparts. So that's one way to fix that. Another way that I think I brought up a little bit earlier is by making sure that this character's demise is not brought on by their identity. This is something that has happened a lot in media and is a message that I hope you don't want to send. As an ally or queer person, it's really important to remember that the messaging in your story is really important. I think that making sure, if you decide to kill off a character, you have to think really hard about what kind of message it's going to send to your audience. Media impacts a lot, and especially when it comes to talking to queer audiences that don't get represented very much, it's important to consider like what messaging they will take from it. And I think that this is really tricky to figure out when you're like working on an early draft. I think that it's something that, for example, beta readers are very useful for. I think that this is something that can be overlooked when like giving your work to a beta reader. I think I need to like bring the blinds down. It's getting so bright in here. My blinds don't fully work. There we go. That's better, I think. Yes, so making sure that your queer character's death is not impacted by their identity. Like, the reason they're killed is not related to their sexuality or their gender identity in any way is very important. I think that especially, it's like, it seems so strange when in like a fantasy world, they are basically killed for coming out, or there's some way that it like impacts. Yes, I am still thinking about Supernatural. Sue me. I'm like, oh, Castiel dies right after he confesses his love for another man. Ooh, and goes straight to super hell. If you get that joke, you're a real one. So those are two ways that you can work around this issue. I do have a new thing that will help you further with this problem. I have made a free PDF for you to use. In this document, we start pretty general and walk through like different methods, and then later on it goes into the exact trope that you will be looking at. I give you specific triggers that these tropes have, as well as questions for the specific tropes as well. So if you would like to pick up that little PDF, then head down to the link in the description and check it out. And I'm going to give you a little teaser about the questions that you'll get for the bury your gays trope in the document. So, question time. Number 1, how can you make the character's death impact the story in a profound way? This is something that I think needs to be considered more, because the other thing, like we talked about having your character's death like not be impacted by their identity, but also the aftermath needs to be profound. I think that this gets a little bit overlooked. I think that the grief around it, like your character needs to have such a profound impact on the story that their death is felt later on. If you decide to kill them off still, then you need to keep them present throughout the story. And a little follow-up, question number 2, does your character need to die for this story to work? Just an idea. I mean, we're talking about bury your gays, but I'm like, do they need to die? Do they? So that is the video. I hope it was helpful to you, and let me know down in the comments if there are any other tropes that you are struggling with right now. I am curious, or if there's any other like issues you are running into while writing your beautiful queer story. At the time of posting this, it is my 31st birthday, which is crazy. And so I'm just like, I don't know, I wanted to share that. And yeah, if you made it to the end of this video, then like leave the little birthday cake emoji down in the comments, maybe. That'd be fun. Anywho, go check out that PDF down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Happy writing.